Hey guys, welcome to Flat Top King. Hey, today is all about why your fried rice sucks. All right, I feel like there are some things that I need to get off the chest before we start this process. The reason why we're doing it is because so many comments that we receive. We get a ton of feedback and we like to give back. Obviously, I'm not Asian. Let's just get that out there. I do think there is a huge difference in traditional fried rice and hibachi or teppanyaki style fried rice. We're going to go with the griddle style, not the wok style, okay? Whole separate ball game. But if we combine the two and keep it on the griddle, I think we can come out with a fantastic idea for you guys. We're going to break this video up in segments. We're going to talk about the water to rice ratio. We're going to talk about cool rice, hot rice. We're going to talk about the ingredients. You name it, hopefully we can cover it. I don't think we start this video without getting some test samples. All right, here we go. Two different of our local places. This is just how it happens to be. This one is absolutely fresh. We just got it an hour ago.
Different restaurants, but they look the same.
Yes, they do. The first impression I got yesterday when I tasted this one was, I can't believe I just spent $12 plus tax plus tip. Now, granted, it's a big container, but after I tasted it...
You don't even want to eat it.
I mean,
I already know you can make better. We haven't even started the video, honey.
I've made fried rice before, and people harass me about not having egg. And I'm like, look, it's optional. You don't have to add egg to fried rice, although it is a common ingredient. This, unless I'm crazy, does not have egg in it, which goes to show you that you do not have to put it in there. This one does have egg in there, and I think you can taste it. I would prefer the egg over not having egg. Maybe it's just because it's warm. I do think it adds a little oomph. Both of these taste like they're hospital food. They're just not a lot of flavor, okay? All right, so now we tasted what we have to go up against. I will say this, peas, carrots, and onions seem popular. First on the list, tools of the trade. All right, this is our fancy dancy rice cooker. It's been put in many videos to date. The problem is everybody wants the rice cooker, and we try to link to it, and it's not available anymore. It's been 17 blissful years. I know that because it was a wedding present. The point is do not look at this and think, oh, it's only a rice cooker. We have used this for tons of things. Queso dip, spinach Maria, stuff like that. We've kept like sausage balls warm. We've traveled with it. It's been heavily used. What we have done is upgraded. They've got one that looks extremely like this, but this is the model we chose. We will have the link in the description below. Does that mean that you have to have a rice cooker to make fried rice? The answer is no, but it's dang foolproof, and we use it for a lot more things than just rice. So if you're serious about your rice, I would say get serious about a rice cooker. It takes the guesswork out of it.
And they're really inexpensive.
Probably the most important thing if you're going to make a fried rice is rice in general. All right. I am a huge Jasmine fan. Growing up in the Navy, my huge influence was Filipino style. They loved their Jasmine rice. I grew to love it. And that's actually my go-to staple since day one. While I was doing my millions of videos, research, and tons of videos and websites, basmati kept coming up. So we're either going to try to mix it or just see if it stands out on its own. But it does seem to stay separate a little bit easier than the Jasmine. First mistake we see people make, or we see the argument happen often, to wash the rice, rinse the rice, or not. When you rinse the rice, you get the starch off, and it helps create a lighter slash more individualized grain of rice in the end, because it doesn't have as much starch. All right, so really quick, so each one is going to be even, because I want to start off with a cup of rice. There is 1 cup of Jasmine rice. If you're a normal person, you're just going to run this underneath the sink until basically your water runs clear. What I'm going to show you, since we're outside, is why you rinse your rice, or should you rinse your rice. Okay. Kind of like just a mixing motion. Okay. This is why you rinse your rice. That colored water is the starch that comes off the rice. All right, so now one pot is going to have unrinsed jasmine rice, while the other pot has the same amounts of everything. We haven't got to the water to rice ratio yet. I know what I'm using, but we're going to play around a little bit. And this side is going to be the washed, okay?
Rinsed.
Rinsed. So the unrinsed and the rinsed. We're going to do the same thing with basmati, okay? We'll show you the results.
We're going to be making a lot of rice.
A lot of rice. All right, today's the next day. We let our rice cool overnight in the refrigerator, and this is what we have. We have the basmati unwashed, washed. We have the jasmine unwashed, and regular, okay? So my first thought is the unwashed actually did not clump together near as bad as what I thought it would. Does that mean I'm not going to wash my rice? Probably not. I still like the idea of washing it, but it doesn't seem like if you forget to wash your rice.
You keep saying washing. I feel like
you put
rinse.
Why? It's still water. You wash your vegetables. You rinse your vegetables.
Washing just sounds like
tomato. So this is the unwashed. Okay, you can see that we have some nice. I mean, it really separates.
it did separate well.
Nicely. I would say it's on the hair on the dry side. Next time I would add a little bit more moisture, because that leads in our next segue. How much moisture, how much liquid, what water rice ratio you have, okay? You can see this is a lot stiffer. And this one is the unwashed. This one is the washed, the rinsed. And it still looks like it's pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's still sticking to your hands. This still sticks to the hands. Maybe just a little bit more.
Which unrinsed, not
Yes.
rinsed.
And then when you come to the basmati,
The basmati seems like it did really well.
Yep, I'm pretty impressed. Now, how much moisture do you add to your rice? Is it important? I think it is. I think it's extremely important, because if you look on the packaged rice, your jasmine rice and your basmati rice, both of them call for different amount of liquids. The reason why that's important, because I thought I had my manual out here. It actually has what they would recommend for a water to rice ratio, which is different than the water to rice ratio listed on the package. So which information do you go to? If you're an old school guy, or you grew up with rice being important, one memory that I wanted to give was basically one of my best friends in the Navy. I was training him to become a captain's cook when my service of duty was getting older, or I was getting out. I was training him to become the captain's cook. As a cook, when you start coming up in the ranks, to be a captain cook is like the ultimate goal. Like, there's not many goals after that, especially being so young. So he was telling me a story. He was Filipino. He was telling me a story that when he was younger, one of his punishments was that rice was so important to their family that when they dropped a bag of rice, it was his responsibility to pick up every single granule of rice off the floor by hand, one at a time, to stress the importance of the rice in their culture and all that stuff. And I can be honest with you, stories like that really stick with you, but it shows the importance of why we're going such in depth with this recipe. The water to rice ratio. What they taught me was you come up to their first index finger, which is very ironic considering
The first
the first crease in your finger. No matter what ratio of rice to water you're using, that's always a good rule of thumb. The thing that I found out when I was very first doing these two rices were neither one of these batches, considering the water to rice ratio, whether it be this or the manual, came up to the crease in my finger. I measured the crease of my finger with my finger versus my wife's finger. Completely two different methods or sizes, right? So now it comes back to the old age. You'll hear a lot of people say, just come up to the crease of your finger. Does that really matter? This method only, we're going to use the finger method, okay? We're using rice cookers. We're going up to the first indentation in our finger, okay? Right there, okay? Just make it a little bit even. What?
That's an exact science.
They use it, not me. It's
I know,
very common.
For type A people like me, this is
Difficult.
Yeah.
All right, power white rice, and it cooks itself. The one thing I've noticed about this, it does take a little bit longer than this to cook, but so far I have actually enjoyed this rice cooker. Same method over here. Your finger touches the rice, and then the water comes up to your index, your first crease. Hope all that's fair.
Oh, jeez. So you have to have your rice in an even layer.
Yes. All right, so this is the first batch coming out of the finger test. We have the jasmine rice, we have the basmati. You can see that the basmati stays a little bit more long grain, a little bit more looser.
More like individual grains.
Yep. And that could be important when making really good fried rice. The jasmine rice is a little clumpier. And I personally feel like as much rice as I had, which is not as much as other people, it's gloopy. It sticks together. I think it's too much water if you do the finger test. My personal opinion. Now, the second test that we're doing now is by per package instructions. The water ratio is different depending on which rice you use. Our manual says something different. Our manual on all white rices says 1 cup of rice to 1 1/3 cup of water. Ironically, the jasmine rice says 1 cup of rice to 1 1/2 cup of water. And our basmati says 1 cup of rice to 1 3/4 cup of water. So we're going to do per package instructions, not per equipment instructions. And I wanted to show you something really quickly. Okay. Get your rice even. Look how short that water is compared to your finger. That water line comes up to about not even half of my finger. So if you're using the water all the way up to your index finger,
your knuckle,
it's going to be interesting. All right. Very hard to determine the difference, but let's just recap. We have jasmine, basmati. This is the finger test right here where it comes up to your first knuckles, and these are per package instructions. To be honest with you, I'm shocked. I do think that the finger test probably is too much water. I think it did get gummy. The basmati looks like it is a champ. Like it looks like it, can take anything you want to give at it. Less water, more water. It seems like it just does not clump together as much. So there's our results for the water. I do think going by package instructions, for the most part, it's probably more beneficial down the road. We'll get to that step once we start frying these up to see how the rice reacts. Next on the list of the mistakes you could be making, the old argument. Can I use day of rice or day old rice? Traditionally, we've been teaching to make your rice a day ahead because it helps compensate for a lot of things. It dries out your rice more. It creates an easier way to create a good fried rice on the griddle. But what if you're stuck with time? How important is it to make your rice ahead of time the day before versus the day of? If you make your rice the day of, no doubt about it, you need a good sheet tray to thin everything out, to have a ton of air to come through there to dry it out. And about 2 hours is kind of like the go-to. We'll show you how to do that. So today we're only doing 1 batch of rice because we can use our other rice from yesterday as the cold rice technique, okay? I've got 1 cup of jasmine rice because that's typically the rice that I go for. And we're just going to wash it. We are going to add our water. And the next time you see this, we're just going to show you what it looks like on the sheet tray. As you can see right here, we're just going to dump the rice out. Kind of fluff it up a little bit. I should say first.
Ooh, camera's fogging up.
And you're just going to spread this nice and easy. So we're gonna give this a couple hours. Like I said, room temperature, then we'll start our process. It's been a few hours. Let me show you what we got. We have the refrigerated jasmine rice. We have the dry rice that we just had on the counter, about 2.5 hours. All right, so this is the counter style dried rice, just a couple hours, and this is the leftover rice in the refrigerator. Package instructions, jasmine rice. This one does seem like it's a little bit more granular, like the rice doesn't stick as much. I actually prefer the day of rice. Our last hoorah. You got to this point, so you got to bear with me. This is very important, okay? We have everything mise en place. So if I could capture this whole 2-week process in a nutshell, the biggest mistakes that we can give you. Number one, not having all your ingredients ready, because we're going to tie that into number two. Overcooking your rice. Your rice is already cooked once. The griddle typically is very hot. The more time your rice is on the griddle, the more chance you have of overcooking your rice. So as you can see here, we've got everything mise en place. I've got a list of ingredients that I'm going to use in some of the recipes, some not. We're going to do 2 different batches. And we have the day of rice, which is actually done today. And this is the leftover rice in the refrigerator. The temperature of your griddle is important, okay? You do not want to overcrowd the griddle because rice can absorb a ton of heat off your griddle. So the biggest thing is maybe working 2 batches or working a single batch. You know, you don't want 8-10 pounds of rice on a griddle and expect it to come out great. Beating the crap out of your rice, okay? We have the refrigerated rice. I see it all the time. You want to rush the process, okay? The rice is so cold that it sticks together. You put it on the griddle, and next thing you know, people take their spatulas, and we can do this a little bit later, and start beating it up because they want it to go quick. The problem is you're breaking your rice up, which is going to change the texture, making like half grains, quarter grains, and that's going to overcook. You want your rice to be fluffy along with your ingredients, okay? Enough said, let's look at what we got. I've determined, in my personal belief, out of about 20 different recipes that we've nailed out so far, 2 eggs per about 1 cup of cooked rice, okay? I've got salt and pepper. We've got peas and carrots mixed. We have some garlic, finely chopped. We have some onion that's been finely chopped. If you notice, we have green onion tops with the green onion whites right here. I'm going to show you why that's important. We have soy sauce and oyster sauce, equal parts. And then on the very last video that we do, I've got some mirin and some sweet chili sauce. I typically have that in my pantry. I do not think that's going to make or break the dish because, remember, we're sticking with the hibachi theme, not the traditional fried rice theme. What I wanted to show for you right here is why the green onion is important, because the tops are not going to be cooked, okay? The whites are. So I just wanted to kind of show you really quick why it's important, okay? So just eyeball it. You're looking at the greens somewhere through there, okay? Those are the tops. That's that right there, okay? This is the whites. Depending on how thick your green onion is, this one's right on the verge. I'm just going to cut it in half. And all you're doing is basically rough chopping it just like that, okay? That is the part that's the most pungent. That's going to give it a lot of flavor, and that needs to be cooked. The tops, we can go a little bit larger if you wanted to. You can go on a bias, thinly sliced. This is going to be tossed right at the end, right before we pull it off. It's not supposed to be cooked, and that's important because the mild flavor that it gives, okay? So I'm just going to spread this up in between the two. It's not a big deal. I just wanted to show you that because I don't want you guys cutting up your whole green onion without understanding why we have it separate. The first one we do is going to be the base of how to make fried rice. I'm going to try to walk you through it, but this is going to happen extremely fast, okay? The second one we're going to do, instead of doing 2 at a time, is going to have that little extra mirin and sweet chili sauce. Like I said, I always have that on hand, so I thought it might be a nice way to introduce it. Some of the fried rices out there actually have sugar in them, not a lot, but that's going to balance it. That sweet chili style, the red pepper is going to give it a little bit of heat, so we're going to try that out, okay? First things first, everything being equal. Remember, mise en place is important, getting all your ingredients together. So we're going to go ahead and scramble the eggs. I'm going to show you a trick on the eggs that I think does matter. Griddle is up to about 450 to 475. You want that heat. Remember, you're frying the rice. We're going to do the refrigerated rice first because I want to show you not to beat your rice. About 2 tablespoons of oil. Just give it a second, let it come up to temperature. You see we're smoking. Typically rice is mounded up, and all of a sudden you see people doing this right here, trying to beat the rice to separate it. The rice will be fine. You gotta let it warm up. Just leave it alone, okay? Leave it alone. You're not gonna hurt it. It's coming up to temperature. right here, our offset side. We're on low. This is like a medium high for my griddle today. This is on low, okay? The first thing we're gonna do, a little bit of oil, because remember, this should happen fast. Spread those onions out. We want to char on the onions. Okay. Peas and carrots off to the side. They're frozen. We're just gonna let those warm up. Salt, not a lot. Just layering those flavors. A little pepper, not a lot. All right, our rice, this is live time. Our rice has had time to cook. You can kind of see that fried, lightly golden brown on the backside. And now you notice that our rice is starting to unstick naturally. Depending on how much rice you have, you know, you might have to spread it out a little bit more. But looky there, right there. We haven't beat the rice. The rice is still intact. And now it's warming up perfectly, okay? This is what you want. This is what you're looking for. Okay, I'm gonna make a little well, only because my griddle goes downhill. About a tablespoon of butter. I think this part right here is key. Out of the ones that we have tested, getting that garlic infused with the butter and then tossing the rice, I think helps. I would definitely recommend this step right here. Remember, all this time is allowed that rice to warm up. See that nice browning on the onions? That's almost done right there. That's perfect. That's one of the things that you would get in the wok when you start adding your onions. All right, our garlic is infused with the butter. Now we're gonna toss all this together. Notice the method of this rice is just a little bit different, okay? We're fluffing the rice, okay? We have oyster sauce and soy sauce. Notice no salt, no pepper yet. Depending on your soy sauce, okay? You want to check for saltiness as you go. Your butter could be salty. That's why we haven't added it yet, okay? And to finish up the dish really quick, another scoop of butter. This is one of the tricks that I think I've learned in the madness of fried rice that I think sets it apart. You'll see two different people out there. One will cook the eggs separate and overcook the eggs completely and then add it to the fried rice. I'm not a fan of that. I think the eggs taste dry. It doesn't incorporate itself into the dish in any way, shape, or form. I'm not a fan of it. What I like to do is meet it in the middle, okay? About half and half, right there. Go ahead and scramble that up. I think this adds richness.
My stomach is growling.
Was that what it was?
Did you hear that?
I thought that was another noise, but yeah.
Tasting for seasoning.
Yep. Golly, that garlic comes through there. The eggs with the richness. At the very end, our rice is completely done. Okay? At the very end, about a tablespoon of sesame oil. Not a lot, you can overpower it. And then there's those green onion tops. Right before you pull it, right there. Okay? The heat, the leftover heat will kind of calm those green onions down. And there you go. Separated, fluffy style rice. I've allowed my griddle to come back up to temperature. Why? You can see the smoke rolling, okay? I use a high heat oil, which means anytime that our smoke is rolling, with a high heat oil, you know, you're pushing probably 450 or plus, okay? So just to go to show you, that was only 1 cup of cooked rice, or 1 cup of dry rice.
Yeah.
Our rice to water ratio was 1 cup of rice to 1 1/4 cup of water. We will have the exact recipe that I've done today listed in the description below, okay? Change it up for you guys. Our griddle's back up to temperature. No talking. The only difference I'm gonna do, is add the mirin and the sweet chili sauce the same time I add my soy and my oyster. The thing I want you to understand though, when you add your day of rice, not day old rice, day of rice, it happens faster because your rice does not have time to heat up. It's already room temperature. So this part happens actually pretty quick. I wish I had those other 2 boxes of fried rice, but like I said, that's been 2 weeks ago, and I'll be dadgum if I'm just gonna go buy more eggs from, or more fried rice from them when I can make this, right?
Which
but you can see the color disparity between these 2 dishes. Although I try to make an hibachi style, I do think that this method is tried and true after all the times we've ever done fried rice. The 1 ingredient or 2 ingredients I'd like to mention, oyster sauce. Look, in the Navy, we had it. I just think it gives it a deeper flavor. Some people might stay away from it. That's fine. You're going to need to adjust your salt content. There's also different saltiness levels. Even though you have a reduced sodium Kinkelman versus a dark soy, you know, your sodium levels are going to change. The one thing omitting from this whole process was MSG. The reason why I stayed away from it, because most people just don't have it available. If you guys want to add it, absolutely. I see nothing wrong with it. I eat it. That's a personal preference. It's just I'm trying to create a recipe for the average person on the griddle, okay? So here we go. So this is the one I'm looking forward to. This has the sweet chili sauce and the mirin in it. If you're not familiar with mirin, it's like a sweet cooking wine. And this is the one that we've kind of like settled in on, and it is fantastic.
This will be our go-to fried rice recipe from now on.
The garlic.
Oh man.
One last tip. My average, when I say 1 tablespoon of finely minced garlic, equaled about 2 cloves, depending on how big your cloves are, just to give you an idea.
God, that fresh garlic, you're right.
The garlic is key.
And getting it like fragrant in the butter.
Yeah, yeah. Don't you get those little tidbits of rice? Now that is actually day-old rice. This is fresh rice.
2 hour fresh.
Yeah.
But that one has the sweet chili sauce and the mirin. Here, give me a bite.
I think it's, if I was having this only, I would go ahead and add it, especially if it's in my pantry. I don't think it's a make or break. You can always add like maybe a teaspoon of sugar.
They're both fantastic. I gotta be honest, I almost prefer this rice. It's like, it's
the day of rice.
It's softer, yeah. It's fluffier, it's softer,
I like
they're both good.
this has a little more crispiness to it. My guess is because you kept it on the griddle a little bit longer just to warm up. And that's what I prefer, that al dente touch. This is a little bit softer because we move so fast. But remember, you can't go too long. You can't be dilly-dallying around. This stuff will get overcooked in a hurry and then becomes mushy. This is a base template. Chicken teriyaki, filet and shrimp, filet and broccoli, stuff like that. Remember, this is just a base. I'm telling you, if you stick with this, you're gonna go a long ways in your hibachi game. If you guys are interested, we have a join button down below. It's a membership program. We thank each and every one of you for taking time for doing so. You can check out theflattopking.com. We have all kinds of recipes online. Do not forget, this recipe will be listed in the description below. Check us out on the Griddle group on Facebook, where we talk about griddles. Hibachi fried rice is probably like top 5 common ideas, questions, posts that are put on there. You guys should check that out. But more importantly, thanks for watching. Don't forget to press that subscribe button, pound the notification button, share it with your friends.
They're both fantastic.
I like the little charred bits of the rice.